Man, this thing is huge. What's up everybody, Tony here with High Tech Check, and today we're going to be taking a look at LG's brand new 40WP95C-W 40-inch ultra-wide monitor. Now this monitor is an IPS display. It's got a DCI P3 98% color gamut. It's got adaptive sync using AMD's FreeSync. It's got HDR10. Its response time is 5 milliseconds. The refresh rate is 72 Hertz. It's got an aspect ratio of 21:9. The resolution is 5120 by 2160. It's got a max brightness of 300 nits, and it's got a contrast ratio of 1000:1. Now, I've looked all over the place on YouTube to try to find a video that kind of told me about this monitor, but the only thing I could find was something that was in another language, and obviously I couldn't understand what they were saying. So I had to go out and buy this myself, and now I'm going to present it for you guys because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that want to know about this monitor just like I did. So first we're going to do an unboxing, and I'm going to show you around the monitor. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a comparison between my LG 4K 32-inch monitor and this monitor, because one of the things I really wanted to know was, is that 5K resolution really needed? How much sharper is it really? And mostly I use it for Final Cut Pro, so I'm going to be hooking this monitor up to my Mac Studio as well as my MacBook Pro, and we're going to kind of see what kind of resolutions we can get between those two devices. We're also going to be doing some gaming, and I'm going to hook up a couple other devices because this does also have Thunderbolt 4. So I'm really excited, so let's go ahead and get into it. So it does come with this really nice stand. It is pretty big, so make sure you have a lot of space to put this stand. I bought an arm for this monitor, which I will be showing you as well, and it is pretty hefty. But this is a pretty nice stand. We're going to go ahead and hook this up first, and then I'll move it onto the arm and show you guys that. Here we have our accessory box. It comes with a whole bunch of cables. Here we have a DisplayPort cable. We have a little clamp to cable manage. Here is our power cable, which is pretty thick itself. We get a, looks like a Thunderbolt 4 USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable. We get an HDMI cable and what looks to be another USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable. Okay, so here is the monitor itself. All right, so here we have our stand. It looks like we just put this on the top, just like that, and then it clicks into place. Very easy to install. It's not super heavy, but it definitely has some weight to it, and then you can tilt it. You can move it up and down if you really want to. Very nice. And then if we look off to the right hand side here, we have two regular USB 3.0s on the side. Now if we look at the back of the monitor, you can see there are two Thunderbolt ports here, the USB Type-Cs. There's a display port, there's a headphone jack port, two HDMI ports, and there's also a power port in the back that doesn't require any extra brick. You just simply plug in the cable directly into the monitor and you're good to go. Okay, so now we're going to turn on the monitor for the very first time. As you can see, it does have an anti-glare finish. It's not glossy, so that's pretty good, especially if you have a lot of light. Here I have my MacBook Pro. This is the 2021 version. It's an M1 Max, and we're going to be hooking it up to the Thunderbolt port here. So let's go ahead and hook it up. So right off the bat, the one thing I just noticed is the fact that it's charging my MacBook Pro while it's hooked up to the monitor, so that's pretty cool. Whoa. So everything is all blown out of proportion here. The resolution is way off on my MacBook Pro and on the display here, so we're going to go ahead and fix that real quick. Okay, so I can't find a resolution here that makes this monitor look not blown out, and as you can see, there is an update available for macOS Monterey 12.3.1, so I'm going to update that now, and hopefully that will fix this resolution issue. Okay, so I will tell you right off the bat, if you guys plug this into any one of your Macs and you're having issues with the resolution, make sure that you are up to date, because I just did that update and now everything looks beautiful, and I can definitely tell that there is a difference in the resolution. Everything on this monitor is even smaller than it was in the 4K, and it's still nice and sharp. Everything looks so crisp and clean, kind of like the 27-inch studio display monitor that I have, but this is not glossy, it is a matte, but it still looks beautiful. So as you can see here, I am in Final Cut Pro and it's using the whole screen. Now I will tell you, I did have to make the LG monitor my main display because when I was mirroring, it only used up like half the screen, or if you make it extended. But I just wanted to kind of make it main just to kind of show you what it looked like. So as you can see, we are in Final Cut Pro. The one thing I will mention is if you mirror your screen from your MacBook or Mac, it'll most likely cut off the edges. So what you want to do is either extend your display or make it your main. And I just simply made it my main display. And here I can see my whole, well, almost my whole timeline. If I zoom in a little bit more, we can see my whole timeline. But man, you can see so much more real estate than you could before just on the MacBook. It looks so nice. Man, it looks good. So far I am super happy. Like I said, the text is so sharp. I'll go ahead and bring it in a little closer so you guys can see a little better. Okay, so I'm going to bring it in here. This is the text on the 5K monitor. I actually think it looks a lot sharper, and this is also a lot smaller than it was on the 4K monitor, and it's still super sharp. So if you're on the fence about getting a 5K monitor versus your 4K, especially for video editing or maybe like looking at small text, definitely go ahead and get the 5K. You're not going to regret it. And as you can see from this angle, the screen does not have a very aggressive curve. It's just ever so slight. The stand also gives you a good bit of tilt and height adjustability as well. Now, if you look at any of the other ultra-wide monitors that LG has made, you'll notice that some of them have this little piece here that kind of sticks out from the frame of the monitor, whereas here it is totally flush with the frame, so it seems like they've fixed that problem. Now, as far as the monitor being sturdy on its stand, I definitely think that it is sturdy enough to be on that stand. And if you were to knock into one of the edges a little bit, the monitor is not going to just fall over. It may wobble a little bit if you happen to hit it, but if you're typing on a desk or something like that, and unless the desk is actually moving back and forth, you shouldn't have to worry about the screen just wobbling all around. And if you did use a monitor arm like I'm going to do and show you, you shouldn't have to worry about wobbling at all. Now, as far as build quality goes, the monitor is made of all plastic, but it does feel very solid and sturdy. When I took it out of the box, even though it is curved, the monitor did not twist or move at all, and it felt really solid. So you definitely don't have to worry about the build quality. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the menu here. All you need to do is press the little button underneath the middle of the monitor. We'll go ahead and go into our settings. We'll go ahead and go up to the quick settings first. So as you can see in the quick settings, we have brightness, we have auto brightness, our contrast, volume, and color temperature. Our inputs here, we have our list we can change. We have auto input switch, aspect ratio, picture by picture, where you can have one device over here and one device over on the other side, so you can have like maybe your computer and then an Xbox next to each other. We have main sub screen change and then main sub sound change. If we go down to picture, we have picture mode. There's quite a few modes in here you can choose from. I like the HDR effect the best. We also have picture adjust. We have brightness, auto brightness, contrast, sharpness, super resolution, black level, variable backlight, and DFC. Let me see what, I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's on there. We have game adjust. We have response time, our FreeSync, which is by AMD, and then the black stabilizer. And then picture reset. There's also color adjust. Our general has our language, smart energy saving, deep sleep mode, power LED, automatic standby, DisplayPort version, Thunderbolt Out, HDMI Ultra HD Deep Color, buzzer, on-screen display lock. Now the other really cool feature about this monitor is the fact that it has the Thunderbolt Out, and basically what that does is it allows you to daisy chain another monitor that uses a Thunderbolt port off this monitor itself, so you don't have to use two cables going into one port. You can just plug it in to the other Thunderbolt port on the monitor and it'll be used as another display. So another thing I was really curious about was how does this stack up in height to my 32-inch 4K LG that I already have, because I wanted a screen that was about the same height but just wider. I did not want like two 27-inch monitors side by side, which the 49-inch is like. So this is definitely exactly like the 32-inch but just wider. So if you have a 32-inch monitor but you want it in ultra wide, this is definitely going to give that to you. So now one other important thing I wanted to mention is the fact that if you're using the HDMI port, the display port, or the Thunderbolt port, you're going to get different max resolutions. Right now I have the monitor hooked up to my MacBook Pro using the HDMI, and I'll show you that I am on the HDMI right now. So we're on HDMI 1, and I'll show you what the information is for that port. So right now, the max resolution for the HDMI port is 4K. It's 3840 by 2160, and it only does 60 hertz. It can't do the 62 hertz that the monitor is capable of, and that's using the HDMI port. If you want the full 5K resolution, you're going to need to use the Thunderbolt port. So I will tell you, on this 4K resolution, things do look squished, as you can plainly see on the screen here, and the text also looks fuzzy. It's not nearly as sharp as it was when it was on the 5K, so that's definitely something to think about. If you can't push that 5K resolution, you're not going to really enjoy the monitor as much as you would if you're utilizing the full resolution. So now we're going to go ahead and switch over to the Thunderbolt port, and we'll see what the differences are. Okay, so now I've switched over to the Thunderbolt port. Now the thing that I discovered was, even though it's got two USB Type-C ports on the back, it seems like only one of them can be used for a display, which I have hooked up to my MacBook Pro right now, and everything looks super clean again. So if we go ahead and look at the text over here, you can see that it's not nearly as fuzzy as it was before, and now it's nice and clear. So now we're going to take a closer look at the contrast ratio. Now in this video, as I'm looking at it through my camera, it definitely looks like there's more washout than there actually is over here. It's not that bad at all, but there is definitely some up in the top corners and a little bit on the bottom here. I'm going to kind of walk you around and show you what I see here. So if we look from this side, there is more washout on the left-hand side now if we're looking from all the way from the right-hand side. But again, I think the video is exaggerating it. And then if we move more to the middle, as you can see, the washout definitely does dim down a little bit. So I think it's definitely more exaggerated on the camera than it is in real life. It doesn't look nearly that bad, and especially if you're going to be looking at the monitor dead on, it's really not that bad at all. I was also watching a movie last night. I was watching Spider-Man, and it was pretty brightly lit on the screen. I also had no lights on in my room, and it looked great. I really didn't have any problems with it. The only time you're going to have problems with this kind of like black washout is if you're looking at a very dark scene in a very dark room, which isn't really bad for me because mostly I'm going to be using this monitor for doing editing, and I don't edit in the dark. And then if I take off this black background, we'll go ahead and see what it looks like then. As you can see, the monitor is it's still super bright, and again, this is on 70% brightness. You can definitely turn it down quite a bit. It's still super bright, especially in the dark here. And with with it being this bright, you don't see any of the black washout. Everything looks great. Again, you're only going to see that in very dark environments on the screen itself in a dark room. Okay, so here I wanted to show you that picture-by-picture option, and here are the options that you do have. You can change one side of the screen to whatever input you want, and then you can do the same thing for the other side, and you have a couple options for that as well, where you have one is just a full screen, which whatever input you want. The second one, it cuts it down the middle, and the third, it puts more of an emphasis on the left-hand side and less of, you know, the portion on the right-hand side. So here we have the side-by-sides equal. You can change your inputs by the input list here. Your main input list is over on the left, and the sub is over on the right here. So I have HDMI 1 and I have Thunderbolt working. So we'll go ahead and go back. As you can see here, main sub screen change. If we go into that, you can swap sides with your whatever you have on here. So I'm going to switch it back. And then you can also do the sound. So we go down to the main sub sound change. You can change which side is producing the sound. So as you can see, the little speaker is on the right here. And if I push it again, it'll make the sound come out for the Xbox. So there are quite a few options. You can also change the aspect ratio for each side as well. For your main, which is on the left, you can do full wide, which it kind of makes it spread across the whole 4x3 inch screen, which doesn't look too good. So I put that to original, and you can do the same thing for the other side if you want to as well. So that is really cool. So if you're working from home right now and you want to do your work on one side and game on the other at the same time, you can do that with this ultra-wide. Now if we go into the information, very interesting. As you can see, the main is displaying 3840 by 2160 at 60 Hertz, and the other side, which is my MacBook, is displaying 2560 at 2160 at 60 Hertz, and that's the most I can get out of the MacBook Pro connected to this side. So now I'm going to go ahead and just change this over to purely gaming. Now as you can see, it is stretched across the whole screen here. We don't have to have it stretched if you really don't want to. All you need to do is change the aspect ratio to original, and it'll give it that same widescreen as you would on like maybe your TV or a widescreen monitor. Now another thing you might be wondering is how high does the bottom of the monitor go up using the included stand, and it looks like it's at about 9.5 inches with the monitor tilted up a little bit. So that looks pretty crazy on a widescreen monitor. It's pretty interesting. You can see so much. Things are a little stretched out, but it does look kind of cool. But that is pretty cool. You can see so much more than you could on just a regular screen. The resolution is really nice. So if you want to use this for gaming, I definitely don't see you having a problem. I don't see any input lag whatsoever especially playing this first-person shooter. So if you're going to be using this monitor for gaming, I don't think you're going to have any issues. And like you just saw, I just took out 3 people. If there was any input lag, I probably would have died very quickly. Now another thing I wanted to mention is the fact that this monitor is only 60 Hertz. It's not 120 Hertz, so if you have one of the newer gaming systems like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that 120 Hertz refresh rate. But 60 Hertz is still good enough for you to do video editing and some gaming. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this stand off, and I'm going to mount it to the arm that I bought specifically for this monitor. And the way that you take this off is very easy. You can simply put it face down, like I have it here, then you just push this button down and simply lift up on the stand, and it comes off just that easy. Now if you're curious, it comes with the mounting screws for your arm, so you don't have to worry about getting them inside the package. they're already installed in the monitor, so you just simply take those out and screw them into the mount. And there we go. Very simple to install, only took a couple minutes. So before I mounted the monitor, I just want to show you the arm that I'm using. This arm is made by North Bayou. This is the NB45, and it is super, super sturdy. It's very thick, and it will definitely hold the weight of the monitor. I will also be putting a link in the description for this monitor arm in case you guys want to pick it up yourself. It's really not super heavy, but it is large, and it just simply goes on the mount just like that. I don't even need to adjust anything. It just kind of is perfect for this monitor. Just stays wherever I put it. Perfect. So here's the 40-inch LG put right next to my LG that's 32 inches. And as you can see, height-wise, they're pretty much the same. Just the 40 inches just a little wider. Okay, so here I have both the monitors side by side turned on with the same web page. The brightness is at 100% for both the monitors. This is only displaying 4K. This is displaying 5K, and I've scaled the 4K one to about what the 5K one is on. Now, just looking at the text up here, I can definitely tell, of course, that the 5K monitor is definitely sharper. The 4K one isn't too bad, but it's definitely noticeable. You can see how it's a little bit pixelated. It's not nearly as clear, but the picture looks amazing on the 5K monitor. The picture still looks good on the 4K, but if you're on the fence, I would definitely tell you to just go ahead, spend the money, and get the 5K, especially if you're going to be doing video editing or things like that. Definitely go with the higher resolution. Now there's a couple things that I ran into that I want to let you know about. One of them is the fact that when I mounted this monitor onto the arm that I specifically showed you, for the height that's perfect for my viewing, the back where you plug in all the cables kind of is exactly in line with the monitor arm. So everything is kind of smushed up in there, and I can only push the monitor back so far. Now the desk that I have right here is 23 inches deep, and the monitor kind of comes in, I'd say maybe about 4 to 5 inches closer to me than I would really like. So if you have a desk that's 23 inches deep, you should be good with this monitor, but you're going to be a tad close. I would like it to be pushed back again, maybe like 4 to 5 inches, and I think that would be great for the viewing that you would need to do when you're sitting in front of the monitor. Now it's going to be a little trial and error for everybody because the placement of the monitor might be a little different for each and every person. So if you have it set a little higher or a little lower than I do, the ports in the back might not be an issue for you. Now the other issue I ran into is the fact that I have a PC and I have a Mac, and I have them both connected up to the monitor, but my Mac is connected through the Thunderbolt port, so everything you plug into those USBs on the side of the monitor will interact with the Mac, but with the PC, it's only using a display port, so anything you plug into the monitor, or if you're using a keyboard that's connected to your Mac, you're not going to be able to use the same keyboard and mouse unless you do one of two things. You buy a keyboard and mouse that have multiple connections, so you can connect it up to a couple different devices and you just switch them, or you can use a software program called Synology. Now I'm not promoting this, it's just something I found that seemed to work really well for me, and what that allows you to do is to use the same keyboard and mouse with both devices over Wi-Fi, and it seems to work pretty good. I don't notice any lag. You might not want to use it for gaming, but if you're just doing it for video editing, audio editing, or just working on your computers, it will work just fine. So as you may have guessed, this monitor does not have a KVM, which would allow you to use one keyboard and mouse on two computers, but you can use the solutions that I have already offered you. Another thing that I absolutely love about this monitor arm is its huge range of motion. As you guys can see, I have the monitor up as high as it'll go, and the lowest part of the monitor is about 17 inches from the desk. So you could have easily probably another 27-inch monitor or something down below here, or pretty much whatever you need Or if you wanted to stand up and use this monitor, you could also do that as well. You could even mount another one of these 40-inch LGs right underneath this one with this monitor arm. So instead of purchasing a whole new mouse and keyboard that connects to both devices, I just opted to go ahead and use that Synergy program that I told you about earlier. It's about $30 and that's for the cheapest tier. It allows you to connect to 3 devices. I only have 2, so it was perfect. Here on the right hand side I have my PC, and then on the left hand side I have my Mac. And as you can see, the little cursor here is kind of scrubbing through my Final Cut Pro timeline. And now if I want to go over to the PC, we'll see the little mouse here. Watch how it just transitions over to the PC. Boom. It's pretty much seamless. So here I have the mouse now over on the PC side, and I can do everything that I could on my Mac just now on my PC. If I double click on the mouse pad, it opens up the right click as if you would on the regular PC mouse, and you can do everything that you can on your other computer. And as you can see, it doesn't look like there's any lag. Like I said before, you might not want to use this while you're gaming, but for doing editing, work, it's perfect. And you can just seamlessly move the cursor back over to your Mac. Now you're on your Mac, and then you can just go back over to the PC. Super cool, great, especially if you have 2 computers. You want to do some work over here on one, and then maybe edit over here. You can use all in the same device, and it's much cheaper than buying a brand new keyboard and mouse. If you're also asking yourself, does this work with multiple monitors as well? Yes, it does. Here I have my Mac again, I have my PC here, and then here I have my extended desktop for my Macintosh. Again, if I take the cursor, simply move it over to the Mac, and I can keep going off this screen here, right onto my extended desktop and right back. Very simple, easy to do. You can also switch where the mouse is, just like when you do your extended monitor. You can swap this too. So if you want the mouse to not continue, but maybe go off to the side here and then come that way, you can do that as well. It's very versatile. Now another thing I was really curious about is if I have a Samsung device that has DeX on it, or if I have a tablet that has DeX, if I plug in the USB Type-C cable, will it work on this monitor? And when I plugged it in, I was kind of hopeful at first because it does charge up the device. As you can see there, the screen kind of acts like it wants to turn on, but then nothing seems to happen. I went into the settings here. As you can see, DeX is on, and if I turn on the mouse option on the phone, it says no signal. So I also tried it on the tablet, and it seemed to do the same thing. So if you were looking to use your phone or your Samsung tablet to use DeX on this monitor, it doesn't seem to work. So now the question is, would I recommend this monitor to you, or would I purchase it again if I had to? And the answer is definitely yes. The reason why I chose this monitor was, one, because it was 5K, and the next was because it was 40 inches. I didn't want to go the 49-inch ultra-wide route because when you get to that size, it kind of smushes it into a wider 27-inch monitor, and I wanted to have at least the height of a 32-inch that I had prior to here. So it's kind of like a 32-inch height, but just a much wider. And I went with an ultra-wide because I do video editing for my YouTube channel, and it's much more convenient for me to see a ton more of the timeline versus, scrolling a million miles just to get to the end or a certain area. Now I can pretty much see everything that I'm working on all at one time, and that goes the same for audio editors. This monitor I think would be really good for either audio or video editing, and it's great for gaming too. As you saw, if you're going to be doing some 4K gaming or 5K gaming on maybe your PC, it's definitely going to be really great on this 5K monitor. There wasn't really any lag that I could notice when you were using a controller, and it's about 5 milliseconds for gaming. So that should be plenty for you to have a really good experience while gaming on this device. I also love the fact that they went ahead and put the Thunderbolt 4 ports on here for that extra connectivity and speed for future proofing. And the speakers on this thing get really loud. As you didn't even get to hear the full 100. I only put it up to 50, but that was definitely loud enough to fill a studio or an office room if you needed to. Now, the things that I think could be a little better on this monitor are, one, the price. You're really going to take a huge hit by buying this monitor, but if you want 5K and you want that 40-inch ultra-wide, then there's really no other option that I could find other than maybe the Dell, which I really didn't want to go for. I really like the LG, and I'm super happy that I went ahead with it, but it is quite expensive. The next thing I wish that was a little bit different was the contrast ratio. Again, if you're using it in a studio where there's a lot of light, or you're looking at things that are brightly lit on the screen, you're not going to really notice that contrast ratio. But where it does come in and show up is when you have the screen totally dark in a dark room with the brightness up. You're definitely going to see a lot of haze with the screen, but if you don't intend on doing that a lot, then you're going to be just fine. I also kind of wish that they made both the Thunderbolt ports inputs instead of one in and one out, especially if you don't have another external monitor. What are you going to use that other Thunderbolt for? It's just kind of sitting there. So if you had two inputs, you could at least put another device into that Thunderbolt port and use the split screen with both Thunderbolt ports, or just have the extra input. And then the fact that it doesn't have a built-in KVM, so you could use two devices with one keyboard and a mouse, is a bummer, but as I showed you, there is a way around that. It's just going to cost a little bit more. So if you're on the fence about getting a 4K ultra-wide or this 5K ultra-wide, if you video edit or you want to play games in 5K, I would say just spend the money. You're not going to regret it because the 5K is definitely better. Now, I will also be putting links in the description in case you guys want to pick up this monitor or the arm yourself. And if you guys like me and you want to support my channel, please use those links because it helps me keep purchasing products and reviews for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little notification bell to let you guys know when I put out new videos. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.